Hey, what's going on? I'm Alex Southey, and you are listening to another episode of Your Worst Song. I'll get right into it because I have another interview coming up soon, actually, after I record this thing. Uh, this is with Jaguar Sun, Chris. Chris, the main singer-songwriter behind Jaguar Sun. We go into a lot. We talk about Europe. We talk about getting on different labels. We talk about the U.S., uh, a lot of mental jumps, how you move, how your how uh how you your brain kind of keeps up with where you are in your career, and how you reconcile those two things, if they need reconciling. We kind of get into the whole BS I usually get into about confidence and how that can or cannot match where your skill level is, or where your career is. But at every turn, Chris just has a very warm, intelligent, thoughtful answer for me, and I think people are going to learn a lot from him and the way he goes about uh, managing his life as a musician and as a person. All right, I'm Alex Southey. This is Your Worst Song. All right, so Chris, thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
You know what? I'm still encouraging people to start watching the podcast as well as listening, because I'm starting to do more video, and so let's everybody take a look at your plants. Chris, you have great plants behind you. I
Yes.
see a monstera looking pretty healthy. I see. Is it like what do they call it? A pancake plant to your left, over your
Oh,
left shoulder.
right here.
Yes. Oh no, it's not. It's a pothos or something, eh?
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
like all the work of my partner Gabby. She's got the plants and the
Oh,
taxidermy bird on the. Look at
whoa.
that.
Okay, that is fake, or is it stuffed, or what is it?
I don't know. My dad knew someone who had this like taxidermied bird, and he was like, "Do you guys want that?" Like my partner Gabby is also very into birding.
Yeah.
Like also got the duck here.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Um,
Birding, which is like, I didn't even know that was a term. Is birding hunting birds, or is it looking for birds?
Looking for birds,
Okay, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So like we'll go out to like High Park with the binoculars and like see what species we can find and
Maybe this is a
to
stupid
shoot these
question, but
photos.
is there anything uniquely interesting in High Park, or is it all kind of what you'd expect? Like, are you just seeing
Um,
cardinals and blue jays and stuff, or what?
I mean, you can find owls there. We saw
All
like
right.
I think it was like an eastern screech owl like hiding in a tree there. We saw an osprey flying around, which apparently is like pretty uncommon, I
Is an
guess.
osprey like a kind of it could be like a cousin of a herring kind of thing?
It was like I feel like maybe more eagle-like. I'm like
Oh, more
very
eagle. Oh, you're right. You're
uninformed.
completely right. I was wrong. Yeah, it's more like hawk or eagle or something.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm thinking of like stork or heron, or that's what I was imagining. Okay. For people
Yeah,
listening, this is going to be the first 20 minutes are now going to be about birds. I don't
it's just
care.
birds.
I'm very curious. Oh, and you have a tiger painting in the background too. You've got a real
Yes,
eclectic. Did you just take all your most interesting furniture from your house and put it behind you for the
I know.
for this
I've the
podcast?
rest of the apartment's completely empty. It's all
Exactly.
right here.
Yeah, it looks like our male living space. Have you seen that
Yeah.
subreddit? Well, how's your day been? Usually that's how I start, and it's only noon. But what was your morning
Yeah.
like?
It was good. Like days like this, I'm usually just working on new music here.
Yeah.
So I was recording. I'm trying to be more consistent on Instagram, so I like
Mm-hmm.
recorded a reel of me playing the slide guitar, but then amongst that, still working on like new music for the next album. Basically, any day I have off work, I'm working on music throughout the day as much as
Well,
possible,
that's
and
what I was going to
then
follow up with. Is what is your work? What is your work?
yeah. So I do like social support work.
Oh, okay.
Uh, I started it back in like college.
Mm-hmm. And you mean
And
like social support work, as in like helping disenfranchised people? You don't mean like social media support for a company?
no, exactly the
Okay.
first,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like supporting individuals with like cerebral palsy or
Right. Right. Okay.
various physical or mental challenges, and it's something I've just done for probably 10 years now.
Wow.
And it's honestly been a really rewarding and perfect balance with music too, where like I can go and hang out with these guys, and it doesn't take away any of my like creative energy, so I can get back home and like
Right.
feel energized to work on music.
And I imagine,
Whereas
what is the schedule like?
it can be
Like,
all over the place. Like
right,
tonight
which is weirdly
I'm
good though for a
yeah,
musician.
it kind of, yeah.
Kind
Like
of.
it depends. Usually it's pretty like accommodating whenever I need to like tour or like take some time off for a show or anything like that. I haven't run into any challenges yet.
Okay.
Like
All right.
tonight I'm working a night shift, so I'll go in at 10 o'clock and leave at 9 in the morning.
Oh, holy shit. I
But
didn't okay, yeah.
it's uh it's it's this thing called a sleep shift. So like
Mhm.
I go in, check on the individual, make sure they're okay, and then I get to go to sleep, check on them like periodically through the night if needed, but for the most part you just get a full night's sleep in, and then
Wow.
assist them in the morning, get ready for the day, get ready for their routine, and out to their whatever they might want to do for the day, and then back
Yeah, that
home.
doesn't sound too bad. That does not sound too
No.
bad. I feel like that kind of downtime, obviously you should be using it to sleep. Like, I'm not going to encourage you not to sleep, but I feel like I've heard lots about people who had jobs like that where they were given a lot of downtime and they ended up working on the artistic thing that they were doing, and it became their thing. Like, the person that I'm thinking of right now is it William Faulkner? I'm such a William Faulkner, the writer. He wrote Sound and the Fury and stuff. Anyway, he was a Southern writer, and I believe that he was working on his books while he was like a janitor with a bunch of downtime at some sort of big factory, and he just like spent a lot of his time writing, and then he became like Hemingway level famous in America.
Right.
And I think that that's what I'm sort of saying. I'm not suggesting you bring in some sort of guitar or ukulele to your shift. I'm not sure that would be appreciated, but even just the downtime to think
For
about
sure.
that stuff.
Yeah, like I've never brought in instruments to work yet. Although, like some of the individuals I support would probably be stoked to like hear me
Probably.
play. Honestly,
Yeah.
so maybe I should. But it certainly does like leave time for like reflection. It leaves
Yes.
time like, sometimes you can bring in your laptop and work on the more artistic side of music. Like if I'm working on cover art or
Yeah. Right.
if
Laptop-based
there's
stuff as opposed to
yeah.
physical, organic. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it can be relatively open in that sense whenever you have like downtime or the individual's not in need of support.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of just depends on the scenario, but yeah, like it certainly has been a really beneficial way to sort of bring in some extra money on the side while I'm still pursuing all of this
Yeah. All of this.
to what I would say being like full time. I feel like music is my full time thing, and then the support work kind of just assists me like a little more of a consistent paycheck, I guess, in the meantime.
When did you mentally have that flip? Because I think that's rare for people to. It's not rare for people to get to that point where they think of music as their main thing and then the side thing is their supportive thing. But I think a lot of people are the flipped for the majority of the time, where they're trying to make it their main thing, but if they really think about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
How did you make that mental flip? When and how?
Yeah. So I went to college for graphic design.
Mm-hmm.
And after I had graduated, I was like working full time at a tech job, just on the marketing team as a designer. And that was sort of the time period where like I just graduated college. My like thesis in college was like pairing cover art design with also me recording my own music. So it was kind of like the gateway to sort of starting Jaguar Sun.
Yeah.
And when I graduated, I kind of sat on some of the songs for a little bit, started working on some other stuff, and then eventually just pulled the trigger on like putting out my first release. Just get it out on Bandcamp, get it out on Spotify, like, and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it just shortly after that first release, one of the songs got picked up by like a YouTube channel that was pretty prominent in the indie scene at the time called
Yeah.
Lazy Me.
Oh.
And they somehow just stumbled across it on the like recent releases on Bandcamp and listened and shared it on their YouTube channel. And that moment allowed that song to gain way more traction than I would have ever
Mm-hmm.
dreamed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just sitting at work, like refreshing the YouTube channel, refreshing my SoundCloud. I was like, the
Yeah.
numbers are going up, and then like
Yeah.
Spotify numbers kind of followed, and that sort of gave me a foundation to be like, oh, like this is I need to take this seriously. Like,
Yes.
not that I wasn't taking it seriously before, but it was
Well, it's
sort of
nice to
this,
see some real, undeniable evidence that people are engaging with it.
yeah.
Like for the longest time
And
as an artist, you're sort of as you're prepping yourself to become an artist, you're thinking in your head, I believe I'm capable of making good music, but it's all internal. And then even when you show your family or friends, unless they're like real assholes, they're going to be kind to you about it, and you can
right.
judge their level of kindness and interest and infer based on that. But it's really strangers that are going to be the ones that give you a semi-honest opinion.
Totally. And
Sorry,
and
continue.
for the most part, that reception was really positive, and that was sort of the turning point. Like after that, I just like head down, like continue to write, continue to record, continue to learn how to produce my like music at home, and like and just continue to release and try and keep the momentum going in any way that I could. And that I think that was that turning point. And
Mm-hmm.
shortly after that, I kind of left the like full-time design job and went back to working part-time at the like support house that I was working at in college. And like I was still living at like my parents' place at the time, so I had a bit of like a safety net, or like, you know, like I wasn't like stuck paying rent in Toronto.
Sure, sure,
Um,
sure.
I sort of luckily had that opportunity to sort of take that financial risk, I guess.
Well, may I ask, can I interject there about that? I'm assuming I'll default to assuming your parents are generally supportive, but I'm sure even if I have a kid in the future and they want to be an artist, and I've had this whole experience of being an artist, I'd still be nervous for them to stop their full-time job when they're deciding to pursue it. So what were they like when you said, look, I'm getting a bit of traction now on YouTube and Spotify and Bandcamp and so on? Did you like show them proof? I assume you're old enough that you could at least play the card of being like, look, even if they're not okay with it, it's still your life and you're in charge of it. But hopefully they were on board after, you know, a slight amount of cajoling.
Yeah, no, they like I'm so lucky to have them as my parents. They were like fully supportive of the whole thing. They never really
Cool.
questioned anything I was doing, and I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah.
And it's easy to take that for granted too, but like, they were incredible about it. And I'm sure like them seeing like, you know, like I can show them the YouTube video and
Yeah.
and all of that. They did see that it was something was happening,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
something was worth pursuing. But even from the get-go, they've always supported my like, I guess, love for music and love for creating it.
Were they ever
Um,
musicians, or did they, you know, do you have distinct memories of them also being like real passionate music lovers, or are they just passionately supportive of their son? You could have gone into architecture and they'd act as though they love it just as much.
Maybe more passionately supportive of me.
Okay,
Yeah, like
yeah,
my,
yeah.
my like my dad and my mom, like they love music, but like they're not. I wouldn't say they're music buffs or anything.
Right, they
like
love
that.
music the way the average person loves music.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So they really just dove in and really supported the what I was doing, and are still like my biggest supporters. Like my dad would like love to just tag along on any tour that we go on and see
Oh,
every
man.
show if he could. Like he's all in it.
That's
And
pretty
it's-
nice.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for that.
That's cool. That's really lovely. I'm curious. Maybe this would be. I'm curious on behalf of listeners who are maybe looking at you and like, look, you figured something out. You were able to do it yourself and record your own music, and that alone got the interest of people and so on. What do you use physically? Your gear. Do you remember the gear that you used to make that first song that got that bump from Bandcamp and the YouTube channel and so on?
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Back in college, I wouldn't recommend using this as your primary DAW. Like,
I'm not asking because it should be a recommendation. I'm asking to show the audience the bare minimum you need to achieve something that can still make a difference.
yeah, for sure.
You know?
Early college, I bought this like hardware software pairing called Native Instruments Machine.
Okay, I've heard of Native
And
Instruments.
yeah, it's like this like sampler thing, and it like
Yeah,
connects to the software, and you can control it with that. And
right.
like at the time, all I was interested in making was like beats and stuff. Like I didn't sing back then.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like more so interested in like creating like electronic stuff. Like I had been playing the piano like my whole life, and I wanted a way to sort of actually get that down now and start layering things on top of it.
Right.
So I bought Machine and just continued to use it and find all my little workarounds for like growing into this more indie rock,
Mm-hmm.
folk, like pop sphere that I was in. Because it's definitely not made for making that. It's way more tailored towards like making beats and like it's a production tool. And
Yes.
not many people, if not no one that I've ever met, uses it as like a primary DAW. But I
I've
was
never
using
met
it that
anybody who
way.
used it as a primary DAW. No.
No. Um, but I made it work for the whole like first up until this year I've been using it, and I just got Ableton this year, and it's changed my life because it's so much better for what I'm doing.
But
But
do you think?
like,
Wait. That's interesting that you only updated this year. Like, do you think there was something to those limitations that you got used to with Native Instruments? Like, what comes to mind is people. I went through a Queens of the Stone Age phase recently, and I saw a bunch of forums trying to decipher what rig setup the guitarist has. And I saw
right.
an interview finally where he revealed it, and it's like this dinky $90 amp or whatever, and that's actually the secret. So is there some weird secret that you found with Native Instruments?
I feel like what I found was just like a workflow that made so much sense to me. After I
Mm.
figured out all my little workarounds and stuff, it was so quick and easy for me to like get a quick beat down, start layering my guitar on top of it, like build out a little song structure,
Okay.
and it felt so fast and so easy to sort of do the basics
Mm-hmm.
that like I just continued to use it that way. And in my head I was also just like maybe a bit stubborn, and I was like, why would I stop using it if it's
If it ain't
working?
broke,
Like
don't fix it, as they say. Yeah.
yeah, but then where it got challenging was like once you're mixing and like you're kind of doing like the finishing touches on a track, and you're getting into like the more fully fledged like composition stuff. That's where like it really starts to fall apart. But I was just determined to use it for
Okay.
everything. Like I'd do everything up until the final mix on Machine.
And so you finally
Um,
just hit your wit's end and switched to Ableton, or so what was the line in the sand you crossed?
It kind of was that, yeah. I mean, like I just like the curiosity of using like just a more standard and like normal DAW like kind of got to me, and then I was getting a bit like frustrated by the limitations on like the mixing side and in
Yeah.
the production side that like I felt like I was getting much better at, but I was starting to get blocked by
Totally, totally. And,
Machine in a
and
sense. So
frankly, I feel like if I was you and I was seeing career growth, at a certain point I'd be like, I need to fucking update. Like, I need to.
right.
It's actually like showing respect for my own work by updating in a way.
Yes, yeah, totally. At the same time, like I also did use like the physical controller quite a bit in my
Mm,
workflow, but
mm.
it started to like one of the knobs was broken and I didn't realize it, and it was changing.
Huh.
It was changing values on like anything that knob was assigned to by a large amount. So I'd be mixing and not realize that this thing is dropping and raising like certain elements by like 5 dB sometimes.
Oh, wow.
And like, and then when I realized that, and like I got too lazy to like return the product and get a new one back, I was
Yeah.
just like, I'm not using the like the hardware anymore. I'm not doing like what I used to do. So like, let's just try Ableton, and
Yeah.
it really is was an absolute game changer for where I've been like moving things now.
And
I
so,
guess.
why Ableton as opposed to why not Logic? Why not some of these other popular ones?
Yeah, it sort of feels like it had that element of being like an instrument in itself that I feel like
Yeah.
Machine also captured, where like Ableton sort of feels like a DAW where you're playing it as well.
I know what you mean.
And you can do a lot of like experimental like funky production stuff, and it's
Yeah.
just like where I kind of view like I've never used Logic, but when I see it and then see the interface, it sort of feels more like a more straightforward like
I would say so.
get the job done type like DAW. Like I feel like Ableton leaves a lot of room for like sound experimentation and
Yep,
like
that's a good
all
point.
this extra stuff. And then it
Yeah,
also has like Ableton Push, which I might get someday if I
I
have
don't
some
know what that is.
extra.
What is that?
It's kind of like their hardware like controller for the
Oh,
DAW,
okay, gotcha.
similar to like machines like physical controller. So I can bring that tactile experience back into using it. Like I would love to
Mm-hmm.
do that someday, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Ableton just seemed like a natural like progression from machine, and it feels like it was the right move now.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Okay, well, speaking of natural progression, why do you end up going from the beat college era thing to folk pop kind of stuff that you make? Was it just
I think it
purely
was
reflecting your tastes as a music listener?
I think so, yeah. Like at the time I was listening to like I think one of the core bands that got me into like the more like drum machine like beat like approach to making music was Youth Lagoon actually.
Okay.
Just
Yep.
cuz like his setup back in those days was like so minimal too where he was just using like a drum machine, just a couple guitars tracked and like very washed out. I loved his vocals at the time too. And
Mm-hmm.
I think through like being inspired by him, it sort of got me back into the idea of like maybe I can sing, maybe I can like get some vocals in this, maybe I can flesh this out and make it not just a beat, but like a more like beat focused and forward track with like all the elements that I like in Youth Lagoon's music or other artists that I was listening to at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of just led me down that rabbit hole of eventually becoming more of like a dream pop, like
Right.
folky indie pop band. I think it was always going to be the like natural progression once I like found the confidence to play these instruments and
Uh,
sing and get vocals down and do all
right. The
that. But
beats were sort of more of a product of circumstance in terms of your own confidence and that kind of thing.
kind of, yeah. Like at the time, I didn't really know how to play guitar, and
Yeah.
it was sort of the gateway into becoming what the project is now.
Okay. I'm sorry that I keep asking like these very like airy fairy philosophical like I don't even know how I would answer these questions if I was you, but I find it interesting.
No, it's cool. I love it.
Okay, well like another question in that vein is uh I was a bit like you where I had never I actually had friends growing up who would be in choir or would be in theater or whatever, and I would see them sing and just be shocked at how they could be so confident in something so vulnerable, even though, of course,
Hmm.
internally I would like to sing to be able to make my own music. It sounds like you were in some ways similar. What's the mental flip when you just decide to go, fuck it, I'm gonna sing? Well, like whatever. Why did that change?
Yeah, I think it just like I felt like what I was working on was missing something in its core, and that was the vocals. And I kind of just got frustrated with like not trying. I was like, this music is missing something,
Mm-hmm.
and like I sing in the car, like like I can sing along to these songs. Why, like I can do this. It's
Yeah.
just like I'm not letting myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like I eased into it too. Like I would sing quietly in my room and close the doors, and I'd do it more when like no one was home.
Classic.
And eventually you get the first few songs down and you hear how your vocals can sound when you double track them or like
Oh
layer
yeah.
them and like get some harmonies and you're like, hey, this is good enough like for where
Yes.
I'm at. And
Yes.
then you start like, oh, maybe I'll start singing when someone's home. Like I don't care. I'm good enough for that.
It must
And
also
then
change too when your identity as a whole changes. Where you're going, I'm not a graphic designer at a company. I'm a musician who was a graphic designer. Once you take on that, then if people hear you singing, they're going to go, well, yeah, he's a musician.
yeah, it's sort of like I feel like maybe a good side example of that is like like sometimes like before music I'd feel like awkward at social events or shows.
Yes.
But when I'm at a show because I'm there to play my own music, I feel like I'm supposed to be there, and I feel like I have this air of comfortability and confidence because I feel like I'm there because I'm meant to be there.
Yes.
Whereas like I'm singing because I'm supposed to sing. Like this is what I do.
Oh, I like
And
that.
yeah, it I don't know, was just enough of a confidence boost to like stop caring about that as much and just do it because like I'm not wasting time, but like it'd
Kind
be a
of.
shame not to. Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of am if I'm just
If
like
you
keep.
realize that's what missing and then you still don't do it, then I think you are wasting time.
Yeah,
Yes. Wow,
yeah,
well, that's good. And then I feel like you're right. Once you start seeing the results and you're like, okay, I wasn't used to this at first, but now I hear myself double tracked, like you said, or with harmonies, you begin to see your vocals more in the way that you've seen other established musicians' vocals. Where, like, I bet we're both probably fans of Elliott Smith. He's not fucking Freddie Mercury, but when the stuff is pushed together and he does his harmonies or whatever, it totally suits what he's doing. And it sounds like that was the
yes.
case for you. You figured out how to sing in a way that filled out what you knew you needed.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't need to outsing anyone. You just need
Yes.
to like capture what your art and what you're trying to express.
Yes, totally.
And I think almost even if people feel like they can't sing, can do it.
There are people who are actually tone deaf, and the rest of the people could do it if they really tried.
Yeah,
Yes. I think tone deafness is an actual thing, right?
I think so.
I think
I,
some
you
people
know,
are afflicted with tone deafness. Yeah,
I feel like it's a legit thing.
I think so. I want to hear how changing or updating the DAW, if it had an effect on how you write. Did it just make things simpler? Like great, this takes less time than it used to, or has it actually impacted what you're adding to your music?
It it's a good question. I feel like there
I
are
get one
some
every
elements.
interview. I get one good question.
There are some elements where I'm actually trying to sort of recapture the like experience of using Machine more. Where like I think when I was using Machine, I may have gotten a bit more creative with like the percussion I was using and adding in all these extra little elements where like that isn't as fast on Ableton,
Okay.
but like where Ableton has just streamlined everything else. Like I have templates set up, so when I go to start writing a track, I just load my template. I already have like a bass kit that I worked on, like loaded up. I've got
Oh.
like all the audio tracks laid out. Like I know I use acoustic in almost every track, so I've got the acoustic like slot loaded right there, and I can just start recording into it in the electric layer and like all this stuff.
And with
So it's like
these preset tracks that you've developed, do they also have a preset bunch of effects that start with? Have you saved them in that way as well? Like you like this amount of reverb on this kind of acoustic guitar, so let's just start with that. You might change it, but it's a template. It's like starting with certain colors every time when you paint or something.
I haven't gone that deep with like the guitar elements, like
Okay.
because I want there to still be some aspect of experimentation. Like
Which
I don't want to
totally
use
makes
like
sense. It's just when I heard you say that, I was like, oh, that's a really interesting way to essentially make it seem like you've got the same band members, I'm using air quotes, on every song in a project if you make it within because you've started with the same presets. That would be
yeah.
kind of interesting.
For the drums, it kind of is like that though, where
Okay.
like I've spent like hours just fine tuning this like general drum kit where I like love the snare, I love the hi hat, I love the kick. I have like all the like compressors preloaded on it and like
Yeah.
the decapitator and like EQs and stuff. So like it's
What is a
every time
decapitator?
it's like a saturator plugin.
Oh, okay.
Adds some crunch to the drums.
Cool. Gotcha.
But like for the drum side of things, like I have dialed that in on a lot of the new stuff that I've been working on, where like I'm working off of this bass kit that is like very fine tuned. But then when it comes to like the guitar elements and like the other stuff, like I try to kind of leave that more open where there's still room to like experiment with different reverbs and then effects on all of those elements.
Wow. That sounds very convenient, like in a really nice way. Once you did the work up front.
Yeah, there's like a little like that upfront like fine tuning and
It's
like
probably
figuring out like
tedious.
like a template that makes sense and something that like you
Yeah.
can actually like work on and work off of. But once you get there, like it's amazing. Like if I have an idea, I just like pop open Ableton, load the thing, and I'm like ready to go. Like
Absolutely. No, that's pretty
it's
great. That's like a dream. That's probably what people in the 90s or whatever could have only imagined, right? It's
Right,
pretty
yeah.
cool. Well, let's start with the first main question. I want to hear what you think your best gig was, your best live gig
best gig.
thus
Yeah,
far.
I I feel like I really gravitate towards our first European tour last year.
Yeah.
Um, Two shows like really stood out, and one was London, and we played. It was one ticket away from selling out. So we played to
Ooh.
like
Ooh.
299 people in London. But
Yeah.
even so, like I still consider that a sellout in my eyes.
Oh, it
And it was
is.
just like
It
an
is.
unreal, like just to be overseas and play a headline show in like in London, England, and have that many people there who know your music and
That's
sing
insane.
along. It just nothing. I can't like if I my me making beats on machine in the college era wouldn't be able to comprehend that.
Okay,
Um,
I understand that feeling, but I also want to question you on this because, or maybe I'll reveal myself to be a narcissist, uh, which has already happened because I have a podcast. But when I was younger and I was just beginning to get into music, is when my delusional dreams were the highest. So I couldn't imagine playing in Europe or something. But I'd be like, oh, fucking yeah, like I'll play Jimmy Kimmel or something. You know, that for sure is going to happen. And then
right.
as you get further into it, the dreams become more realistic in a way. So my question to you is basically, did you have more extreme dreams like the one that I was just saying, but never thought about that middle section, which is achievable dreams, even though it's very hard, like playing Europe, even though you're Canadian?
Yeah. I know. I feel like back when I started making songs, my aspirations were like probably the lowest.
Oh, okay. So
And
you were
like I was
healthy.
just like
Okay.
I'm literally just doing this because it's fun and
Yeah.
like I love playing piano and I couldn't layer things and now I can. And like in those days I was like, like I feel like I'm good at this.
Yeah. Right.
And I love doing it and definitely don't intend to stop. But like I did not want to play music live. I didn't want to. I just wanted to work on songs by myself in my
Mm-hmm.
room, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe someday someone would listen to them. But like I had no dreams of playing music live until like 2 years into the project, and
Wow.
uh,
So
I
how do
felt
they
like
start to
similar
grow
to
from there?
singing.
So how do they start to grow from there? Like are you really grounded enough to, I mean this in a complimentary way. Are you grounded enough to truly just be like, okay, well this latest release did slightly better than the previous one, and therefore my dreams can update slightly, and maybe I can do this now.
Uh, I don't know. I think my like dreams like when I was getting into it were just that like and as things started doing well, it was like I deserve to be here and I know I can make music that's good enough to like hang with these other tracks
Gotcha.
and these playlists that like
Yes.
they would get added to, and I was like I will only continue to get better from here and will continue to produce better songs.
Good point.
And like I think my dreams sort of like stayed within the like I want to do this for a living, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to tour and I didn't want to do it that way. I just wanted to make music and I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to like get better at producing and maybe someday I'd produce for others or something. But like the like sort of fully fledged like artist dreams of like touring, playing music, like they didn't come into the picture until I was like more or less convinced by like the people around me or like my manager that it was something worth doing, and it was like similar to not singing in my music was maybe a disservice to not play these songs live to people that
Right.
care about them, and I was like I can get behind that. I'm gonna
That's a
try.
great, what convincing speech. That makes sense. You already had a manager though before you were playing live.
Yeah.
How the hell does that work?
It was sort of like the traction from those first releases were like enough that like it sort of like
Attractive.
solidified the project in this weird way where like the like digital side was there now. Um, like after I released the first EP, like I started releasing through like a label in France that had approached me, and then as it came time to sort of leave that label and move on to other things, like I was like, this is kind of growing to a point where it'd be nice to have someone in my court that like knows the industry more, and through mutual friends found a manager that was willing to hop on board despite the fact that I wasn't playing live or doing like the full thing yet.
Yeah.
And just continued to grow that way. And then
Wow.
yeah, it kind of worked out, like maybe backwards in a way where like
Yeah,
the music
that's sort of
started.
my point.
Yeah, like the music was doing well on Spotify and getting big, and it was getting big in like places that weren't home either. Like it was
Right.
bigger in, or it still is way bigger in the States, and like it's harder to sell tickets in Canada than it is to sell tickets in New York and like places like
Damn.
that. So, and then like the music stuff, the live stuff came sort of significantly after the project started,
Yeah.
which I know typically doesn't happen, but at the time I just didn't want to do it and I didn't know how and I didn't know the people to join the band and
Well, I just feel like this is a really modern example of a musician becoming more popular, right? It's all happening
yeah.
online first, and then you're following it up with live. And lucky for you and all of us, you actually have the talent to back it up live and keep it going. You know that doesn't always happen. I. I know that we're literally in the middle of my first official question right now because you haven't, I think, talked about the second city that you were going to reference in Europe or the second show. But I'm so curious, even the fact that like you were on a label, it was in France. You had the chutzpah, let's say, to leave after a certain point and search out something else with a manager. That's just all sort of. I guess I want to hear about your thought process as you're navigating that just from your bedroom and making music on Bandcamp and stuff. Like, what is that like? Sorry, that's a
It's
very open-ended question.
yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a trip trying to navigate things like this,
Right.
especially like when a couple of years ago, like you didn't, like you were fully ready to just continue your like full time graphic design career, and
Yes.
the music industry and the business side was something I just had zero grasp of, or
Yeah.
which is sort of maybe why I ended up on a label. That label in the first place was maybe like premature. I don't know where I like, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but this seems like it's legit. Like, let's just
Yeah.
join a label
Yeah.
without thinking probably deeply enough about it. But
Either if it was premature or not, it worked out. It has worked
it
out
led
based
me
on where
to
you are.
where,
Yes, exactly.
yeah, for
Exactly.
sure. Um, I don't know. It was just
Make it. Maybe I can ask you this way, and this might help formulate something. Do you have any advice based on those events, based on going on a label in another continent first, and then coming back more towards the U.S. and Canada? And do you have any advice? What would you tell you just starting out at that point?
yeah. I think I would tell myself to like really understand why you're making each decision that you're making. Like if you're joining a label, like why are you doing it? What are they bringing to the table that you don't want to do that they will do?
Right. Right.
And then continue to check that along the way. Like, are they still doing these things that you didn't want to do?
Hmm.
That like they brought that value in, and understand like how much value you have by yourself, because there are so many people that are just killing it right now, fully independently, growing their social medias like crazy, like and and just doing it alone because they can and they want to manage all this stuff by themselves, and they have the bandwidth and the ability to do that, and it's amazing. So I would have
So,
just been like, just check yourself and like,
yeah.
why are you joining this label over here? Is it beneficial to you? And then understand when or if it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I did in the process, and I learned that.
Yeah. Clearly.
But it's just like maybe the biggest thing is understand your individual value and like how far you can really take things alone as well before you explore different different avenues like that.
I think that's great. I think that's good advice, kids. Listen to Chris, Jaguar Sun. Okay, let's finish the first question. What was the second show?
Yeah, the second show was in France, and it was like just a similar thing where it was like a fully packed room, and you have all these people like even with the faint like language barrier singing like every single song, and like a couple of our like partners in the band like flew out to like see some of those European shows, and they were at like that show in France, and like my partner, she was like we met someone in the crowd, like someone who grew up in like Paris, that was like singing every single word, and they became friends in the crowd, and like
That's
and
wild.
it's just like a really emotional moment to like witness people who feel it in that way, and then to talk to people afterwards who are like, struggling to speak in English just express like how much they care about like you or what your band is doing and the music you're playing, and it like I don't know, like I've struggled with playing live and touring, but like it's moments like that that like continue to drill in why it's worthwhile, and like how life-changing this is, not only for me but like to be able to connect with the people that care. It can be such a important moment, and I'm feel so lucky that I get to experience that, and I really felt it when we were in Europe especially.
You're a nice person. You're a nice guy. No, that's nice to think of that. But I feel like a lot of people might think that, but they won't articulate it, or it won't be top of mind, to use terrible meeting speak, office speak. So it was in France. That was almost another packed show, or it was another sold out show. Is that right?
I don't think it was sold out, but it was packed. Yeah,
Cool.
It was like way more people than I would have ever expected. Like,
and in addition to the fact that these were successful shows numbers wise, and you explain this more in the Paris show, the fact that they were singing along, and that makes a great show, obviously. What made the London show so good? Like, maybe all those same things, but, or maybe a wider question is, what makes a show good for you?
I think with London, it was just this sort of surreal aspect of it to me, like to just be there in the first place, and to have that many like tickets sold like that far from home, and to like feel love from like complete strangers in like a completely different country overseas. It just like it was so surreal that I'll never forget it. But even you even felt it, like there were like larger shows like London and Paris, but there were smaller shows too, in like some of the like places like Brighton or
cool. Yeah, I was going to follow up about some of the smaller shows. Like what are some places that you played where you just thought, like London, that's London and Paris are the obvious places you would go in those countries. So Brighton, what are some other smaller spots where you're like, oh, this really surprised me, this is pretty cool?
Like Brighton, Bristol. We played in Luxembourg.
Oh, okay, wow, yeah.
Yeah, we played in this like smaller city in Belgium, in like a skate park.
Oh, cool.
But even like, I don't know, even when it was like shows where maybe there's 20 people there, it like still felt so worthwhile. And like, those are the shows where you can really take time after the show too to just hang out with people and talk and like connect with people on maybe even a deeper level than you would in a like larger room like London.
For sure. Okay.
So like, it just like felt like just such a success across the board, even though like, you've got your core shows that were like, you sell a lot there, but then you have other shows, like where I mentioned there's 10 to 20 people there, but still felt so worthwhile to be there. Yeah,
I that sort of leads me to, especially the fact that you said like smaller ones make you more available to talk to the people that are there and get to know them and so on, which makes sense. Speaking generally, that's the only way to answer this question. Do you see a difference between European audiences and North American audiences?
Not a noticeable one, I don't think.
Okay.
Like I felt like maybe like London, like a fully packed room in those places, like with everyone singing, like I don't experience that all the time in North America. Like I feel like in North America you can have like more introspective and like calm and like stationary crowds. And it's been a learning lesson to like understand that like even if though like you might have a pretty stiff and like tight crowd, that doesn't mean that they didn't enjoy the show. Like you'll talk to people afterwards and like, I love that so much, and you're like, I saw you in the crowd just like standing like this the whole time. I didn't think you liked it at all.
Yeah, totally. But, I believe that.
I guess like I feel like you come across that maybe more in North America, at least in this genre of music, maybe.
Right.
Where like you'll have like a room full of people that are just kind of standing and listening, and it's hard to gauge like their interest in it.
Thoughtful, introspective folks who aren't like necessarily their first instinct isn't to make a pit for your music. Yeah.
Yeah. But then sometimes they might just not enjoy it as well.
Well, that's yeah,
there's that aspect to it
I
as well. They
suppose
just might
there
not
is.
like the music.
But now you have now you have an excuse. If you see that, you go, well, maybe it's like that other guy who loved it, but he was standing there with his arms crossed.
Yeah.
You can fool yourself. Well, what about worst? Speaking of fooling yourself, what about worst gigs?
Ooh. Worst gigs. I feel like our first show in the States in Buffalo, maybe not because the show itself was bad, but like the experience of playing that place wasn't the best. Like, we were so excited to get to the States, and like we made it across the border. We were super nervous about that, but we got in and we like show up to the venue at like our load in time.
Yeah.
And like us and the other band is there, and we're just standing outside kind of like waiting around. We wait for like an hour maybe, and then the sound guy comes like walking up the road, and he's like, oh, here, 1 second, let me let you in.
Oh my god.
And then he goes into the venue, and another half hour, like 45 minutes pass, and then he like opens the door eventually, and it's like, I feel like he like forgot that we were there. And then we get in, and we're like setting up to sound check, and like Jesse, lead guitarist, and I like we're using these like solid state amps that have a direct in or a direct line out the back. And the sound guy is like, you could tell he's like very old fashioned, and
Hates
he was
solid
starting
state,
to like
that kind of thing.
he was gonna mic up the amp, and we were like, oh, like actually you don't need to worry about that. We've got these like direct line out the back, like it sounds great, like, and he's like, doubt it. He's like, he was not happy. He was not stoked about those amps at all.
Damn.
He was pissed. And then like we're sound checking, and like Jesse was just like asking for like a little bit more vocals, which I'm sure like a lot of sound guys hate. But he's just like, dude, just sing with your diaphragm. It's you. And like it just went from like we were so stoked to be there to like, oh, like this kind of sucks. And then like he quit halfway through the night, and like another random sound guy had to come in and like take over in the middle of the show.
He quit his job?
Maybe not quit fully, but he left. He just like ditched the show and like
Jesus
disappeared. So you're like, man.
Well, that's clearly, based on all the evidence, this is a him problem. This is not a you problem.
No, yeah, for
Damn.
sure. And we definitely understood that. But like, just like our first tour, first like stop in the States, and like we were riding such a high, and then like whoop.
Was the other band a Buffalo band, like a local band?
No, they were a band called Husbands from Oklahoma.
Oh wow.
And we had like worked on some music together and had been online friends, so it was sweet being there with like some other friends, and we like kind of went through that experience together.
Yeah.
But that was a bit like, I feel like most shows are not usually bad because of like the crowd itself or anything. It's just extenuating like circumstances.
Yes.
You know, like I feel like every single tour we've been on, the band gets sick in some form or another, and you're stuck playing a show and you feel like awful. Like on our last like month-long tour around the States, our drummer got sick in Denver, like, which was one of like the earlier stops in the tour. And then one by one, like every person in the band through every section of this tour just started dropping, and I was like one of the last ones left. And I was like, I could see what they couldn't, they had no voice, like their throat was awful, and I was like, oh no, like I'm just waiting for this thing to hit me at the worst time.
No, yeah.
It's fine. And then like we're getting close to the end, and there's some like larger shows like New York and stuff, and I was like really starting to stress, because like every day I was like basically convincing myself that I was getting sick too.
Yeah. Right. And like hypochondriac levels, even if you're not actually sick at that point, you're like, I'm fucking sick. It's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I play this show in New York, and I know that this is like, oh no, this is going to be the one that's going to do me in. Like some of the guys from the label I'm on now were there, like friends to talk to and catch up with, but I knew that my voice was starting to go, and I was like, I pushed through that show, but knew that whatever was coming next is like a complete unknown now. Like, am I going to wake up and have a voice tomorrow?
Yeah.
I don't think I am. And then our next stop was like Montreal, and maybe the worst show is like the one you can't play because we had to cancel it. And then I'm just like sitting in Montreal at like the coffee shop beside the venue, like not playing the show, and JW, the other artist, like continued on and played it anyways, thankfully.
Oh wow.
But you know, I'm just like, this is lame. Like I'm just like chilling here, like not not doing
I
my
feel like
thing.
it's a bit of salt in the wound to go to a coffee shop next to the spot.
I know the hotel was too far away to like
Oh,
go anywhere else. It was like outside of the city, and we were gonna do some driving after the show in the night. So I was kind of just stuck in Montreal, feeling like awful and
brutal.
uh, feeling bad that I canceled the show too. And
Well, look, you gave me good answers. Thank you. Something I
yeah,
follow up with after the venue questions is a small one, but any green rooms that you've seen that were like, oh, this is, it doesn't need to be the fanciest, but just like interesting.
interesting greeners.
Yes.
Third Man Records
Oh yeah,
in
the
Nashville.
Jack White label. Yep.
Very cool green room. Like it takes taxidermy to another level. Like he
Okay.
had
Yeah.
like just wild stuff in there, and like a crazy like hi-fi record player and sound system, and this big like beautiful kitchen with a fridge full of beer,
Good. This is how I imagined
and
it.
like
Good.
comfy couches, and like that was a cool one, and it just felt like you were in some like interesting sort of historical like, musical place being there, and it was a
Was
bit of a
everything
trip
like
playing.
red, white, and black? Does he have some sort of classic color scheme?
It was all deep colors like that. Like I do remember there being a wall that was like either a deep red or like a yellow.
Oh.
The venue itself is called the Blue Room, and the whole room
Okay.
is just blue walls and
Gotcha.
everything. The big like elephant on the wall. It was kind of trippy.
So the venue is attached to the label. It's sort of all in the same building.
All there, and
Oh,
like Jack
okay.
White's office is like in the green room. So like they're like sometimes he's just working in his office while you're here waiting to play your show.
Damn, that's wild.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and how big is this room? Is it like more intimate? Like, are you playing to maybe 100 people, or smaller, or bigger?
I think it's like a 250 cap or like
Okay.
a 300 cap room.
Okay,
So it's like
so still big,
yeah,
big-ish.
like a small medium size.
small, medium, but to me, big. Considering it's next to, it's part of the label that building as well, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. Has it become kind of like, well, whatever. I don't know how much time you spend in Nashville, but Nashville's obviously a classic music city, especially in the States. I know there are a bunch of legendary places to go. Do you know if Third Man Records and its venue have kind of shouldered their way into being like one of the main places that people like to play?
Ooh, I don't know. I feel like my experience there was so brief, kind of as it is with a lot of these cities that you sort of hit on tour.
Okay, yeah.
Like
yeah.
with Nashville specifically, like we got in same day, played the show, got back to the hotel to sleep, and left the next morning.
Sure.
So I feel like my grasp of like the true Nashville music scene is so limited because of that. But
Well,
I have gathered that it's like a venue that artists like to play. I know
Okay,
that.
cool. Well, that's good. That leads me to question if most of the cities are a bit like that, which is just the nature of touring, right? You're sort of in and out immediately to make it work. What's a city that you were somehow able to, like, ironically, is Montreal a city where you were like, well, I'm sick here and hanging out. I guess I experienced this more than Nashville.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I went for like a big walk. I like found that coffee shop. I like got to like be outside, be in the city for a little bit longer than I would have otherwise instead of
Oh,
just
so
like
you could go
being
for
at
a
the
big
venue.
walk, but you couldn't play the show? No, I'm
I
joking.
know.
I'm
Yeah.
joking. Sacre bleu. Yeah.
In Paris, I guess like some of these stops on the European tour were nice because like everything's so much closer.
Cool.
Like I feel
Yeah.
like even though we hit like so many
Right,
different
that's-
countries, our entire tour routing could have technically fit into Ontario basically.
Wow. Yeah.
Um,
yeah.
So in Paris, like we got to like that was one of the shows that my partner came to, and we got to go to a museum. We got to like walk around, see the Notre Dame. Like it felt like I actually got like a bit of a tourist experience.
Well,
in
ironically,
Paris.
too, kind of like what you're saying about sizes, like, I'm not going to say that all the cities in Europe are walkable, but compared to North American cities and the way we have roads set up and the distances between places, it's so much more car-centric in North America. It makes sense that you can't actually see much of the city as you're passing through it, versus if everything you played in Europe would fit into the size of Ontario as a province. It's like you're going to be able to see more stuff naturally because things won't be as far away. Is that a stupid thing to say, or does that make sense?
No, I feel like that makes sense, and I feel
Okay.
like they have like a lot of their like public transit like really figured out in
Yeah.
a lot of these cities as well, where like there's like a lot of like American cities where like maybe it doesn't make sense or it's not worth the time to try and figure out how to get downtown or
Right.
whatever. Like,
Or it's like
um,
notorious in LA, like the transit is not good and not the safest, so people just drive everywhere.
yeah, yeah, and then like LA's known for their traffic. Same as Toronto
Yeah.
though. Like
Yes.
apparently Toronto
Yes.
has the worst traffic in North America,
I know.
which
Woo!
I
Go us! We won
yeah,
something.
I feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. No. No.
um,
Okay. So I get it. So, but Paris is one that stuck out.
yeah, it was just nice like actually having time to like do something that wasn't like music related, like go and see a museum, go look at art, go and
Yeah.
like
That
take
would
our
be the
time
city to
walking
do it.
around and
That would be the
for
city to do
sure.
it. That's cool. Was there anything that you've
Yeah.
been wanting to see? You're like, oh, by the way, I buried the lead. I saw the Mona Lisa as well, or something like that.
I went in pretty open. I was just like, if I get to like just relax, this will be amazing.
Yeah.
So I didn't have like a list of things that like, oh, we need to like go to the like
The
check out the
Louvre.
Mona Lisa,
Yeah. Yeah.
this and
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Totally.
Like we saw some like Van Gogh paintings, which was really cool,
No,
and
that's very cool.
it's like the Musée d'Orte or something. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but
Nor could I. That's fine. Interesting.
um, yeah, yeah. I try to like not plan specific things on tour because I feel like you're setting yourself up to like fail.
Totally. And if you achieve all of them, then it's probably stressful, like what you're saying.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
we'll do our best to like stop by some national parks when we're doing like a North American tour, but
Right.
it just makes like your days like a
Totally.
grind
Totally.
to be able to experience those things.
Well, and also, theoretically, your career is just going to get better and better, or literally, even if it stays as it is, you were able to achieve a European tour recently, so you'll go on one again. My point is, you don't need to do everything that first time. You're going to be back in Paris, theoretically, some years later, hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah.
Fingers crossed, knock on wood. It's all spells we can think of. Well, let's get back to your music. Back to the classic two last questions. What do you think is your best song that you've put out?
Yeah. I I feel like one that I always am drawn back to is a song called Next Year on my first album, This Empty Town.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like it was one of those songs where like all the stars aligned, like the way I was able to produce it, the way the instrumentation came together. I felt like the lyrics like really captured that time in my life where I was like post college trying to figure myself out, post like a relationship I had been in, trying to figure out where I was going, like
Mm-hmm.
understanding where I had come from, but like having no idea what the future held, but just knowing who I was at the time and knowing what I wanted to do, and felt like it just captured all these like emotions that felt really palpable in a way that was special for me.
And is it so
I
nice now because once you play it each time you can remember that, or is it nice because the song has changed with you over time, kind of come with you in your back pocket?
I feel like a combination of both. Like it's a nice like flashback to a moment in life where like it's kind of just like creating without any goals,
Right.
and it was a real like free flow of musical ideas back then. It was like when I was living at my parents' place and had this like studio set up, and it was just like get home from work and make music and hang out with friends. It's sort of the way you like view like the good old days in like high school or something.
The salad
or, like,
days. Yeah.
yeah.
Totally.
Um, yeah, so I feel like that song has always just stuck with me as a real favorite. I feel like from a production standpoint and a writing standpoint, I continue to grow and continue
Sure.
to get better. So if I
Sure.
like pick like a favorite song from like a technical perspective, like
It might not be
Thousand
that.
Down,
Yeah. Okay.
like
I see.
the song I just released, like I feel like that's the best production I've had in a track, and I feel like
Right.
I've grown the most, like from that sort of instrumental like standpoint.
Yes.
But
And
then,
those
like,
are
from
those are
a-
slightly more objective things, right? Subjective is in songwriting and how it's all coming out and how it hits you, but it makes sense
Yeah.
that you could say your most recent thing is technically the best in some way.
Yeah,
You
Yeah,
said
especially like
you said referring back to to your best song when you wrote it, you were at your parents. It was earlier on. All the ideas were flowing, but you said it in kind of a past tense. You made it. I inferred that to mean now they don't flow in the same way. Is that the case?
maybe not the same case, but it was just like maybe a more like stress free
Mm-hmm.
time in life where
Right.
like
Now
at
you
the
know there's an
time,
audience anticipating whatever you do next, and at that point, you're sort of happily putting it into the void.
yeah, and to some degree, like where I've grown in my production and recording skills, I feel like that also places a filter over it where I'm like thinking about those things way more than I was back
Uh,
then.
yeah.
Where I was just like tossing in this and
Yes.
that, and I wasn't EQing anything, and I was just
Yes, I
like,
see. I see.
so like it was almost like this like sort of blissful ignorance towards like the technical side of music production.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, like I can't forget that I know these things. So I'm like spending more time like fine tuning little details that back then I was just like, oh, it's done. Like
I see.
it's a bit more meticulous now than it was
Yes.
back then. Yeah.
And you're sort of like, you're almost second guessing yourself for these ideas that you would have just run with when you were younger because you know what's coming in the editing stage later, or you understand some technical boundaries that you wouldn't have thought of before.
Yeah, for sure. Like
Right.
just tossing in an excessive amount of layers of random things because like I
Yes.
wasn't conscious about how that would affect the mix or like the mastering phase of things. And
Totally.
now like I know these things. I'm like, well, I can't believe I did that back then.
Yeah.
But it
I
didn't
know.
matter, like, because the music got the point across. And,
Yes,
like,
the
people,
enthusiasm, and you were still hitting the bare minimum of getting your point across within the song or whatever. I understand that completely, but it's also you're smiling a little bit, which makes sense because it's fun to think back on that period of like helpful naivete in a way.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, for sure. And I
well,
think I'm trying to like learn how to reconnect with that sometimes too. Just like bring back that careless experimentation again.
what are some ways you're trying to do that?
Just, just maybe not focus on like the mix at all until it's time to mix, or like
Mm-hmm.
just like get things down and not be afraid to just like get really like wild with like the effects that I'm throwing on things again, or like I don't know, just
No, that's
do my best
interesting.
to separate those two
Yes.
things a little bit more.
Well, it's a little bit like, let's say you worked with somebody that you like to as a mixing engineer. They're not you. They're gonna hear it when you send them what you've worked on. So you can treat yourself, the mixing version of yourself that'll come along later, as a different person. They don't know what you, the artist, are recording or doing. So maybe that's a way to separate it, like what you're doing. That's interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, we're at that time. What do you think is your worst song?
Worst song. I maybe some other people have had a similar answer where I feel, even though it became my most popular track,
Yeah.
my worst song was a song called Forever and More.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
people would probably be sad that I'm saying that as my like least favorite. But
Chris
and I don't
thinks
think it's
your
my
favorite song sucks.
maybe it's not my least favorite, and it's not like the best way, but at the time it was like I had no intent on like releasing it. It was just kind of like a track that didn't make the cut on an album. And you know, I wasn't like super confident in where it was, or like it was on that weird fence where like it sort of felt like it was good enough to release but also didn't for some reason, and I kind of just made the decision to not release it. But through sort of like filling like a previous label sort of contractual thing, like just gave them that final song as I
Oh.
sort of like was leaving.
It was like
And
an
I was
obligation.
I got this.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I don't know like how much I can like,
Actually talk about it.
yeah, but
Okay,
like
sure.
regardless, I was sort of like whatever, like just to like close this chapter.
Yeah. Yeah.
here's this track. Like I wasn't really gonna release it, but like let's just get it out, and then I move on to the new album that's coming out,
Yeah.
and kind of leave me. And then lo and behold, it just for the next 3 years was consistently at the top
So
statistically. Like just
why
like
do you think that is?
I, I don't know. I feel like people are really connected with this one in like a deeper emotional way, where like a lot of people have used it in their like wedding videos and like walk down the aisle and like I'm still trying to like wrap my head around what it is about the track that people have gravitated towards so much. Because when I listen to it, I feel like I hear its shortcomings more than I hear the things that I like.
Okay.
That I love about it.
Which probably is what led you to not including it in the album. It's just, it's rare to hear, like, not only was it not a single you chose for the album, which you hear about sometimes, it didn't even make it onto that album, and yet it's objectively, based on metrics, for a while become your best, most successful song.
Yeah. And it's sort of like, I feel like through that has like helped me sort of shift my perspective on it a little bit. But it always like kind of confused me. But I'm endlessly thankful for it too. Like it's also like solidified. It just continued to solidify like this career in music and continue to push the project forward. But it's funny how something that you don't really feel like you can connect with can be something that people have connected with so deeply.
Yeah, and how they resonate with it changes, like you just said, how you look at it. Like now do you see the merit in it a little bit more, even if you see the shortcomings?
I think I do.
If I squint a little bit and close one eye.
Yeah. Oddly enough, like it was a breakup song as well, like sort of this bittersweet breakup song where like, like...
But it's used as a wedding song.
It's used as a wedding song, and a lot of people like really gravitate towards it as a love song.
All right. That's like Every Breath You Take. It's like, oh, have you read the lyrics? Because this is not a romantic song. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's technically about people parting ways, but then being better off because of it. So this sort of bittersweet look at it, like the end of a relationship.
Yeah.
But then, like, I think people kind of grasp onto the love aspect of it more than the breakup part of it.
And perhaps would you say maybe it sounds more like a romantic love song first and breakup song second? Like the vibe of it, I mean. Like, is it understandable that other people just hear it as this romantic song about love and they're not actually clocking that it's meant to be a breakup song first, and then, yes, it's romantic, but it's a sad romantic?
Yeah, like it's definitely like a more like maybe uplifting musical vibe, and it has a sort of like dancey like chorus, like electronic chorus and stuff. So it definitely like makes sense that people sort of, even if there were no lyrics, would feel like it's more that than the other. But yeah, it is one of those songs where I was like, why couldn't something else? Why couldn't Next Year be the song that was like that popular? Like what? Why? Because like I'm singing like flat in it, and like when it came time to like play it with the band, like really struggling to figure out how to make it sound good in the live setting with like a full band and stuff. Like just felt like,
But are you still playing it live?
We are, yeah. Okay. And more so recently, like for the first like few years of playing live, I didn't even try.
Oh wow!
But it also felt like one of those things where like, come on, like people want to hear.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah, exactly. You don't want to disappoint the fans, especially like you're going to Europe, right? You should probably play the one that they really know.
I know, and you like people would be like, play Forevermore, and I'd be like, I can't. I'm sorry.
I physically cannot.
I don't know how.
Well, I appreciate all of these answers. You brought a lot of good stories, my friend. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we haven't talked about? Anything promotional you want to talk about or bring up?
I mean, there's a lot of new music on the way.
Yeah.
There is something new coming next month. A little like special deluxe version of an album coming in July.
Cool. Cool.
Some other music coming this fall, and then like the new album is well in the works, and like hopefully come the new year we'll have some like a larger body of work dropping.
Right. So a lot of
there's
music coming out in like the next 12 months, kind of.
Yeah, really hunkering down and working on a lot of this stuff. So
That's awesome.
keep your eyes peeled for releases, I guess.
Sweet. Okay. Well, that's all great. How we end it is you say your name again and the name of the worst song choice.
Yeah, so I'm Chris from Jaguar Sun, and my worst song is Forever and More, as much as many would probably disagree.
Thank you very much, man.
Yeah, thank you.